Hello everyone, guess who? Before I go into what I've been doing the past few months, just watch this video.
We've started recording misogyny as a separate category of hate crime. It's where either a crime or an incident occurs and the victim feels that it's occurred because of their gender, i.e. the fact that they're a woman.
Now, hopefully most of you see the immediate problem of this definition, and that is that it hinges upon whether the victim perceives that it is a hate crime or not, or whether it is due to discrimination based off of sex. Now, Dr. Randomer Cam actually does a very good video and a very humorous one about everything that is wrong with this definition, and he addresses the entire 3-minute video in his own 10-minute video. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because I'm actually using it as a segue into essentially the relativistic stances that society often takes about just about everything, really, not just with regards to morality, but also with regards to truth. Now, before I get into that, I'm sure at least a few of you out of all 9 of you, that's how many subscribers I have, but at least a few of you are interested in what's been going on the past few months, and the answer to that is honestly nothing. I've just been guilty of dereliction of duty. I've been very busy with my academics. I will be getting my math and physics degree actually in about 3.5 months from now, which is exciting, and then I'll be going on to get my bachelor's and master's in computer engineering. So I wanted to talk about relativism. The reason being is that you often hear, responses to morality or just about anything, just saying, oh, well, it's just relative to someone. So let's start off with a semi-formal definition of relativism. Essentially, a relativist says that truth is relative to a person. That is somewhat of a circular definition, but essentially each person has their own truth. Now, hopefully you immediately see the problem of this. Essentially, it denies that we all experience the same thing. It doesn't necessarily deny it, but it's basically denies truth in of itself. It says, oh, well, it's his reality or it's her reality, and each one is equally as valid as the other. Now the issue is that this is somewhat of a colloquial term, and the reason why it was used is to sort of point out that we all have our own reality, or we all have something that we perceive to be true. It may or may not be, but in reality, our own little personal realities, they aren't necessarily true. This is why I always hesitate to use, oh, it's his reality or her reality. The proper word to use in this way is actually perception. So what is moral relativism? A moral relativist doesn't necessarily deny truth or an objective truth, but what they do object to is essentially any sort of basis for morality that is objective. A moral relativist is somebody who says that moral truth is relative, or at least what is right or what is wrong can only be determined person to person, and you can't sort of create this overlying or sweeping rules, these sweeping rules for morality, because it's only for each and every person. So murder might be wrong for you, but it isn't wrong for me. And this is entirely possible with the relativist stance. Actually, the relativist would say, well, yeah, you can say that murder is wrong for you, but with regards to anyone else, it's fair game. You cannot, with the relativist stance, make moral judgments upon other people. Interestingly enough, moral relativism denies the study of ethics. A moral relativist quite literally cannot study ethics because it is trivial, because you cannot pass moral judgments. There are other forms that deny the study of ethics, skepticism, nihilism, even determinism, actually. What else? Psychological egotism. Actually, psychological egoism, I believe. All of these deny the study of ethics, but the reason why I'm focusing on relativism is because I do see it to be a problem. I'm actually going to make a video that goes more thoroughly into this when I'm actually going to make a series of videos that are dedicated to philosophy when I find the time. It's going to essentially go over logic and logical fallacies, and it's also going to go over ethics. It's worth mentioning that with regards to moral relativism, you have two different kinds. There's moral relativism proper, also known as I believe it's individual moral relativism, which is essentially where it's literally down to the individual. But then there's also cultural relativism, which is essentially when in Rome, do as the Romans do. This has a lot more backing to it, or at least a lot more arguments in favor for it. So I'm just going to mention it. Essentially, you have all of these different societies throughout not just the US but throughout the world. And in one of these given societies, there would be a certain code of rules or a code of conduct, and that could be completely different somewhere else. So essentially this kind of relativism has to do with these societies. Now, there are quite a few criticisms to this. There is, how big are these societies? Are they countries? Are they states? Are they cities? Are they towns? Are they families? And then when you have a place like the United States, which is a melting pot, do you conform to your country, or do you do something like in England, where a lot of the Muslim migrants essentially they end up, immigrating to the same areas and literally forming a state within a state, which is just Muslim? Do you conform to England's laws, or do you conform to your own values? Now, there are actually two forms of cultural relativism. There's cultural relativism of principles and cultural relativism of rules. The example that we have just discussed is cultural relativism of principles, which is where the principles vary from country to country. Cultural relativism of rules is actually somewhat unique in that it does not deny the study of ethics, and it's actually somewhat valid. The classic example is, should somebody be punished for wasting water? And I said water instead of water because I'm dehydrated. But the classical example is essentially, well, would you punish somebody for that? And immediately you generally say no. And then you say, what if they're in a desert and them wasting this water would actually cause detrimental harm to the society? And that kind of makes you pause and think, and you have to realize that the principles that cause this law to be enacted are essentially the same. You are preventing harm to other people, so the principles themselves do not vary, only the rules. And this is actually a completely tenable position of relativism, and it technically isn't a relativistic stance because it doesn't deny truth. We're not gonna be criticizing this because it's actually relatively valid. It poses many problems, but it's valid. You take something like John Stuart Mill's harm principle, and which is essentially that individual liberty can only be restrictive in order to prevent harm to others, and then you look at cultural relativism of rules, you realize that the principles can stay the same, but the rules can vary. Now, inevitably, we're still going to have a few cultural relativists watching this video. So, let's watch a few videos, have a few yucks, and see whether the cultural relativists could explain them, could justify these situations, essentially. Yep, I'm immediately opening up a can of worms here, and for those of you who do not know what this video is, you will soon find out.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته، وأهلا بكم من خلال هذا اللقاء الذي هو بعنوان ضرب الزوجات، وهو إحدى حلقات برنامج نبض الأسرة. أعرف أن هذا الموضوع شائك، وأعرف أنه يحتف به كثير من المخاطر، لكن لعلنا نركب المركب إن شاء الله تعالى فنعبر من خلاله إلى بر الأمان. أعتقد أن الخلل يأتي من خلال الفهم الخاطئ من بعض الأزواج ومن قبل بعض الأزواج لعلاج حالات النشوز. هناك فعلا نساء ربما تعتبر ناشز من زوجها، ربما أنها تمارس أحيانا ممارسات خاطئة مع الزوج، فيحمل ذلك بعض الأزواج على المعالجات الخاطئة. الله تعالى ماذا قال؟ قالوا اللاتي تخافون نشوزهن فعظوهن. هذه أول مرحلة من مراحل تقييم الزوجة، وهو الوعظ، بمعنى أن تذكرها بالله سبحانه وتعالى، بما لك من حقوق وبما عليها من واجبات إلى غير ذلك. ثم تأتي المرحلة الثانية، وهي قضية الهجر. الهجر أيضا هناك ممارسة خاطئة بعض الأزواج ربما أنه يفعلها فتزيد المشكلة اشتعالا. متى؟ إذا أخذ فراشه ثم انتقل إلى بيت آخر فيعلم الناس كلهم في المشكلة، لأن المقصود من الهجر وتأديب الزوجة، وليس هو نشر القضية والافتضاح بين الناس أبدا. وذاك الله تعالى قال واهجروهن في المضاجع، بمعنى أن تكون معها في الفراش ثم تلقيها ظهرك، أو تنام أنت في فراش وهي في فراش في نفس الغرفة. وهذا بالمناسبة كما تقول لي إحدى النساء، هذا أدعى لتأديب الزوجة. يعني الزوجة الآن لو يخرج الزوج من عندها إلى غرفة أخرى أخف عليها من أنه ينام معها ويلقيها ظهره، أو ينام في الأرض وهي تنام على السرير أو العكس. ثم تأتي المرحلة الثالثة، وهي قضية ماذا؟ قضية الضرب. يجب أن نفهم أنه الضرب ليس المقصود منه التشفي، وإنما المقصود منه التأديب. ولا بد قبل ذلك أيضا أن توجد أسبابه الشرعية. الضرب لا يكون بمثل العصا هذا، ولا بالعقال كما يفعل بعض الأزواج، ولا كذلك أيضا في بعض الأدوات الحادة التي يفعلها بعض الأزواج مع الأسف الشديد، وإنما يكون بمثل السواك، يعني بمثل هذا العصا الصغير، يعني بمثل هذا كما يقول ابن عباس لما سئل عن الضرب قال يضربها بمثل السواك أو المنديل، لأنه ماذا؟ المقصود فقط إشعار الزوجة أنها أخطأت في حق زوجها. هناك ولا شك أسباب قد تتعلق في الزوج، هناك أسباب تتعلق في الزوجة، ربما أنها تدفع الزوج أحيانا، وهو الغالب أنه يضرب زوجته، وربما أنه حصل العكس كما حصل في بعض الأحيان أن الزوجة قد تمد يدها على زوجها. أولها هي قضية ماذا؟ قضية التربية الخاطئة التي يتلقاها بعض الأزواج مع الأسف الشديد، فيعيش في بيئة ربما أنه يرى والده أنه يضرب زوجته مع الأسف، فيتخلق بهذا الخلق. الزوجة ولا شك أيضا قد يصدر منها بعض الأسباب. هناك أسباب كثيرة أجتزئها في سببين، ولعلني أختصر ما إن شاء الله تعالى. أول سبب هي قضية المناكفة بين الزوج وزوجها، يعني بين الزوجة وزوجها. يعني مع الأسف بعض الزوجات تحب أو تريد أنها تعيش عيشة الند مع زوجها، بمعنى عيشة الضد، أنه كما أن لك فأنا لي، وكما أنك تفعل فأنا أفعل، كما أنك تقول أنا أقول. هذه مشكلة خطيرة جدا. أيضا هناك بعض الممارسات الخاطئة التي ربما تفعلها بعض الزوجات، أحيانا قد تفعل الزوج أو قد تدفع الزوج إلى أن يقوم بضربها. بل إن هناك من النساء مع الأسف الشديد ربما أنها قالت يلا إذا أنت رجال أضربني، بمعنى أنها تستحث.
So I hope you were all taking notes, maybe learned a few things about wife beating. But essentially, how would the cultural relativists justify that? First of all, how is beating just in a society that it is acceptable? For example, how does an acceptance of an act make it okay? If we went back to a time, and by the way, there was always opposition to slavery, but if we went back to a time where it was relatively accepted, does that make it acceptable? And the answer that we'd have to give is, does that make it okay? And the answer to that is obviously no. Just because something is accepted does not entail that it is right or that it is okay. The other problem with relativism is it actually doesn't allow for improvement or advancement. Essentially, we could not say that the society we had, some 150 years ago, 160 now, in which we still had slaves, we cannot say that this society is any better morally than it was back then. Also, notice how that man said this is a very grave problem with regards to equality. This is a very grave problem. And this is probably a very big inconsistency, one of the biggest ones. Let's say if I'm in a place that views women as one half of a person, which is perhaps not how, first of all, certain literature, whether from the hadiths or from the Quran, will purport that a woman is half as valuable as a man. Not all Muslims believe that, but it is there. Saudi Arabia does look at it that way with regards to testimony or witness testimony. So, if somebody moves from point A to point B, does their value increase? That really doesn't make much sense. Relativism really is untenable. I mean, just in a given debate, you should be able to crush it. No problem. Well, I think that's enough for my spiel on moral relativism, and I've probably ranted on enough, gone on enough of a tirade. So, I'm going to work on one other video today. But yeah, it's nice to be back. Hope you guys have had I don't know, I was gone for quite a few months, I guess. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Have a good one, guys.